Hey guys, welcome back. Excited to be with each of you today. If you guys have not written a review, we would invite you to do so. This is one of the easiest ways that you can support us. Go to Apple Podcasts. You can leave comments on episodes on Spotify, on YouTube. You can email us, but ultimately it helps other people to find us. And so we just want to encourage you, if you have not done that, to do that today. This episode comes out, Mother's Day will already be past. So hopefully you guys have all honored your moms in some capacity. But when we're recording, it's the day before Mother's Day. And I had just told Brad I really felt like I wanted to do an episode about being a mom. I don't know, maybe I'm in a really sentimental season of parenting right now, but definitely kind of feeling it as far as this is going to be the first Mother's Day where 2 out of our 3 kids will not be here to celebrate, which is weird. I'm not that we've ever done anything crazy for these days.
No.
But we've always spent it as a family, and it's really just been more about like the meaning behind it than, gifts and stuff like that. Yeah. But it's weird. I mean, I'm used to coming down, and one thing the kids usually have always done is like there's some kind of handwritten note on the table. I definitely went through the seasons of the breakfasts that were made in awkward fashion. I choked down burnt toast and various other things, or, them trying to let me sleep in as I'm hearing like the gajillion clanking of dishes happening in the kitchen. And I miss all of that stuff, but it's always been interesting for me waking up and seeing the little notes and seeing the difference between our boys and our daughter. There have been times my boys have written just like, love you, Mom. Yeah. And that was the extent of their emotion, but it was cute. Like, it was always just cute to me. There was never this great expectation. My daughter would write these elaborate, just emotional long letters, and my boys just 2 sentences, 1 sentence. So I think maybe I'm feeling a little emotional about just motherhood in general. Yeah. And it's because I don't think we've ever done an episode specifically on motherhood.
I don't know.
Not that you recall, Brad.
Yeah, you're the one that keeps a list of episodes, not me.
No. There's a list of episodes available to everyone.
Oh, yeah. It's true.
It's like last week you said that, where it's just I feel like we should have a list of titles somewhere that tells us what we talked about. I'm like, you know where you could look? Anywhere you listen to podcasts. Yeah. That's where you could look, at the list of titles.
I meant more of a summary of each episode.
This sounds like a good job for you.
It sounds like a good ChatGPT job.
Also, just FYI, there is a summary of every episode in the description that I write every week. Just so you know.
Yeah.
And Brad's like, dang it, I didn't mean for this to get me in trouble. No, I was just kind of contemplating being a mom. And one thing I just want to say that I'm super grateful for is my dad really raised me with what a great honor and what a great role that a mom was. Yeah. I mean, it was always really represented as just one of the highest callings and honors that you could have as a woman, was being a mom. And not that he ever demeaned anything else we ever attempted to do, but he just really held that in high regard. And I think that really shaped a lot of the way that I looked at being a mom, was just that it was one of the highest callings of my life.
That's not the case anymore, though.
No, it isn't. It isn't.
Even I know we've done an episode where we've talked about how even marriage is looked at, totally different now. And so Absolutely. the same with motherhood. I just saw a remix, and it's I guess this kind of is in motherhood, right? There's a lot of problems with this lady, but that was the point of the remix, whatever, is that called a remix?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what you're talking about. I know you think I do. But
on Instagram, it's called a remix. Okay, that's what I'm talking
about.
So anyway, when this lady's she has a podcast that she's talking to someone, and she said, like basically throughout that week, she's like in the morning, she takes like that pill to not have a baby. Like if they've had sex the night before.
Oh, the morning after pill.
Yeah, whatever it's called. I don't like.
It's an
I don't
abortion
keep
pill.
up with it. Yeah, I don't keep up with all the
Yeah.
Like it doesn't. But anyway, she was like bragging about that, how that's her like
birth control,
her what she does.
Mm-hmm.
And again, there's a lot of problems with what this girl's doing, but just in general, I think that not in general, it really is. It's life is not revered
Valued.
as enough as it should be.
Mm-hmm.
It is in certain occasions, and other occasions it's not.
Yeah.
And then motherhood is sometimes looked down on.
Yeah, like you settled for motherhood.
Yeah, or you settled. Yeah, because it's usually like coincides like motherhood and like the quote unquote trad wife. That the traditional wife that stays home.
Did you just? Is that a thing? Is that called a trad wife?
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah,
did not know that.
Like what?
What? The abbreviations that have been hitting me this week and the various like lingo.
Yeah.
Our middle son is gone, and I've just been getting the most random just slang that he is throwing at me, and it just making me laugh.
But it's all looked down on.
Yeah.
Instead and I think, well, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know. But do you think that it's all looked down on because for so long it's been this, I don't need a man, career push, every woman should be independent. My point of view on this.
Yes.
So every woman should
You're
be
not negating a career woman.
No, absolutely not. Like, go do the things. But when that's pushed so hard and that's the sole focus is career success, climbing up the ladder, the quote unquote ladder.
Phrase it differently. I think that's the issue, is that success has been defined only in a paying career versus the success of raising a family.
Yeah.
And I think both of them can be very true. And so just like you said, we're not negating anyone who has a successful career and a mom and is a stay-at-home mom or a stay-at-home mom who doesn't have a career. Like that's not what this is about. It's just that element of your role as a mom and recognizing the value of that in such a way that that is enough for you to feel that you have had success, is that your role as a mom is truly one of the most valuable, impactful, legacy changing things that you will ever do. And that will surpass your career. It will surpass any of the things that we do for some kind of monetary gain or recognition, is how you have looked at that role of motherhood.
Yeah. And I think I've been seeing that a lot lately too, just in the sense of, now that we're talking about this and, motherhood and raising kids is this aspect of, what do you think, when someone says like, oh, you've raised such great kids, when they're getting older, it's more of the way they behave and how they say things and all that. And then as they get older and, what college are they going to? Oh, they're going to that school. Man, you've raised such great kids, or, oh, they're becoming a doctor, or they're doing this, and
we become very much focused on success in only one path.
Only one facet of it, right? Again, like I would, if you want to become a doctor, if our kids want to do that, that's phenomenal. I don't I'm not taking anything away. We need that, right? Like this isn't an anti everything.
We're not anti-career.
Episode.
We're not anti-women. We're not none of those things.
Absolutely not. But where success in someone telling a mom, oh, you've raised your kids really well, is more of that, the worldly success of what Ivy League or next college are they going to? What are they studying? Who are they marrying? What family,
we've lost
whole
character building. We're more worried about wealth building. You know what I mean? And that's where I think it has gotten very misconstrued. And I think in every facet we can get to that. And I know, even a lot of, I've had different jobs all through kind of our married life, and even as a mom, many times working a job and doing, mothering and all of that stuff, and the difficulty of that. But I know at various times, you're going to fill out some application somewhere and it's like career, right?
Yeah.
And feeling like, I guess like stay at home mom, like, yeah, that's what I am. We have a friend and her mom says she calls herself a domestic engineer. And I thought that was so creative. She was like, I handle all of the things exactly. And really everyone who is a mom handles some level of that. And I mean, to those moms that are listening and you either by necessity or by choice are working, I just give you all honor. Because that adds a whole other layer of the roles that you have to play. Yeah. And I know that there brings a level of guilt with both facets of either not working and working. And I think mothers in general, we will take on guilt like really easy. Like the mom guilt thing is real. And I think social media has really made that way worse.
Like, what do you mean? So are you're talking about the guilt you feel, not...
Yes.
Because when I hear mom guilt, that's when the mom's trying to guilt the kid into doing something.
No, I'm saying that I think we talked about the narrative of failure for you as a man.
Yeah. And
I think that's really huge. I feel like moms a lot of times live from a narrative of failure.
Oh, absolutely. I think so. Yeah.
And so I think that is, kind of this lens that we're looking through, is that we always feel like, oh, I fell short there. I fell short here. This is going to make me an emotional episode for some reason. But I think because motherhood is on my mind so much. Yeah. But I think that narrative of failure, you're always wishing that you could do more, always wishing that you had done something differently, responded differently. And that's why I think I wanted to have this episode, was just that we could really encourage moms. And, whether or not you're having to work, or whether or not you have the little kids and you're in the trenches, or whether you're navigating adult parenting, kudos to you, that you are encouraged in that role and know how important it is. I'm so grateful to my mom, who just really loved us well. And we will always tell you the greatest thing that you can do for your kids is to have authentic faith and have a good marriage. Mm-hmm. My mom really modeled that element of authentic faith so well to us, and she raised 6 kids. She was a domestic engineer all the way. And I'm so grateful for that aspect of her in my life. I'm blessed to have had a mom who sacrificed. And I think, so I wanted to kind of go through some like lessons of motherhood, and still in process. Like we are still in process constantly of like learning different, seasons of parenting. I know that that's just going to continue to be the way it is for the rest of our lives. But I definitely think motherhood reveals what you're capable of. And I would say that it reveals it on 2 different facets. It reveals what you're capable of in the worst sense. And it also reveals how capable you are, what strength you have that you didn't know you have. I saw that play out in so many times as my kids have grown up, and we now have, our youngest is 14. So we have a 20-year-old, an 18-year-old, and a 14-year-old. Mm-hmm. And especially in that season when they're all little, I have never really been an angry person. I would never say that I'm somebody who's really prone to anger. Yeah. I'm just not. But man, my kids could bring it out in me. And I think that that's like the thing where I said, like, you don't know what you're capable of until you do become a mom. I think it reveals facets of your character that you are not forced to contend with. And recognizing that in yourself, recognizing also your capacity for great strength. I mean, it's just the things that you didn't think you could do, and you just learn how to do them, right? You're at the hospital, and just having this conversation today with someone, but you're at a hospital, all of a sudden someone hands you your baby, and it's like, well, you're a parent now.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like,
you're like, well, where's the instruction?
Somebody, like, I don't know if this is, should you just hand me this child to go home with? Mm-hmm. Like, shouldn't this nurse be going home with me to make sure that I'm doing this right?
Little life.
And, even if you were, and I had been around kids my whole life, like who I was as a mom was so different than who I thought that I would be, looking at this little helpless child and your immense love and protectiveness that is drawn out of you is not possible, I think, any other way other than the role of a parent, because it forces you out of your own selfishness.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the other thing is like, so all of these aspects that motherhood reveals to you is it's like, man, I'm so capable of the worst of me, right? I'm so capable of the best of me. I have more in me than I thought that I could, right? Moms have a supernatural ability to do things tired. Even when you're exhausted, like, okay, but I still got to do the things, right? And making it come together in ways that you just didn't realize. To all you moms out there that are just making it happen tired, man, I feel like that's probably 50% of it, especially when they're little. Then you get older, then you can't sleep. So it's like a weird twist, just like, it's not even your kids keeping you awake anymore. You're just like, no, I'm awake at 2 a.m. What the heck? But, I think that aspect is such a beautiful part of motherhood is the recognition of what you're capable of. And I think that God has so many lessons for us individually in what it is that we see revealed through our parenting. It's like, I just never realized how selfish I was as a person until I was forced to face the selfishness of, you don't even think of it as selfishness, right? But, well, I'm tired, I'm hungry, I'm worn down, but it doesn't matter because this little baby needs something, right? And that overrides all of my needs.
Yeah, right.
And so it just starts breaking selfishness. And I think that continues all the way through your parenting journey is that dying to self element that God calls us to individually, but as parents, it stretches us even further. And I know as a mom, I think I wish I would have given myself more grace. Like I think when my kids were little of just like being with them and not, catering to my idea of what it was always supposed to look like. Or when I did respond in anger, learning to say, I'm sorry really quick. I think that developed as we went along, but I think this is where authentic faith plays out so much. I saw something recently that it talked about one of the greatest facets or indicators of whether your children will continue in faith, once they become adults, is how quickly you owned up to your own mistakes. Mm-hmm. And I think that's kind of freeing because it's not that our kids expect us to be perfect. It's almost like the recognition of like, oh, you're not perfect and you owned that. No. And like, I just recently told him, it's not about you being perfect. It's about you always pointing to the one who is. It's like, man, I'm not perfect. Please do not look at me as the example of how to do everything. Like, I'm going to do my best, but ultimately it's Jesus. Like, you have to develop that. And I wish that I had, given myself more grace in the middle of my mothering journey, because I think we do. We sit there and kind of think of that through failure. Yeah. So I just, out of curiosity from you, obviously you have the outside perspective but what do you feel like is one of the biggest roles or importance of being a mom, or how have you seen that play out?
Well, I didn't know if I was going to speak today. I wasn't sure.
Oh, really, Brad?
Yeah. So was
that going to make you sad?
No, but I'll say this, so you kind of started out with, I think you nailed it, but you were saying how, before you got super emotional, how you moms will blame themselves and second guess themselves. And then you started to do that right now. And I think it's just like natural for you to do that, where you're like, I wish I would have given more grace. I wish I would have, stayed on the floor longer to play with them. I wish I would have, whatever, right? Fill that in. But you're in the middle of it. Like there's other things to do. That it's not that it's more important than your child, but there's also just life to do, right? And so coming from this place of second guessing yourself, you can second guess yourself about everything, right? Like I've been finding myself do that a lot, not turning this to a father episode or anything like that.
No, we're going to definitely do a father's episode though.
But, just with this weird time frame that we're in, and our two olders, one's out, right? She's not going to live with us again. And then one's like, he's got a pinky toe over here, maybe. Like he
still calls once a day.
Yeah. He still has clothes here.
He still texts me yeet and bet.
But just and then seeing our youngest, and I'm seeing him grow in all the ways. Yeah. Right. Literally just this,
like he's almost taller than you at
sprouting
14.
Up. Yeah. And so like I'll see these pictures of them as littles, and I'm like, man, I should have done this. Like I should have done that. It is hard, but you can't. Yes, there's mistakes we make where we should have done more of something, but the round's downrange, right? There's nothing we can do about that. We can't bring that time back.
I love that is a saying that only you would have. The round is downrange. Well,
like you pull that trigger, you can't take it back. If trigger's
don't use that on your spouse. Okay. That's a tactical version of calm down. That's exactly what that is. Am I right?
I don't think to me, it's like, no, not calm down. It's just like, what are you going to do about it? Right? Like that instance is gone. What are you going to do about it? And so I think that every parent, I don't think there's a parent out there, a mom out there that doesn't second guess themselves. Yeah. And I think that there's, valid second guessing. I really do. This is not a dig on mothers at all. I know when my mom speaks of my childhood, there's things that she does regret. Yeah. Right. And whether, and some to her are very valid. Some I'm like, I turned out all right. Like I'm fine.
That round's downrange.
Yeah. What are you going to do about it? Right? So, what are you going to do? So, but I think that I just want to talk about that though, because you can't sit in that world of second guessing. Yeah. I mean, it has been hitting me hard too. Like, before you cried, I was going to tell you, like, I'm like the wind blows the wrong way emotional about kids right now. Yeah. Like I see, a video of a little kid, and I'm like, don't blink, kind of deal, right?
Allergies.
Yeah. And I see pictures of ours as little kids, and yeah, you do wish those things, right? Oh, I wish I could have done this more. We should have spent longer time here. But you're a mom. Like there's life, right? That goes on around you that you can't negate, that there's things that have to get done. The domestic engineer, right? Or whatever. You think about what a mom does, and if they're working too, it's even harder, right? Because they have to split their time between that. So it's even harder if you're actually working outside the house. What I mean, like, you're not just at home working. You have a job outside of your. You have
another set of responsibilities that you're
absolutely
answering for.
That's the day-to-day operation, right? The logistics of everything that goes on, the house, the food. I mean, when you have littles, like
one kid only eats this. One kid won't touch that.
And you're not like trying to cater. You make a meal, and it's that you've had tons of experience of that where one kid's like, I'm not eating that, and you're like, yeah, you are. And you're going to sit here until we do.
Yeah, that was another lesson to quickly in motherhood is like, if you start, I told this recently to a young mom, but if you start the war, you have to win the war.
Yeah.
That's when it comes to being a parent of littles.
But it's because you can get to the point of the mom, the parent that doesn't want any regrets. And so there's no way not to have some type of second guess, right?
Yeah.
There's no way. You either spend, say you have more than one kid. So now it's like, okay, well, I have to spend X amount of time with this kid and then X amount of time with this kid. But this one's a baby. So this one's taking the majority of my time. And then, oh, wait, they need clothes and they're all dirty. So I have to do that, but it doesn't matter, but I need to do this more. So there's something that's going to drop.
Yeah.
And it's not that the other things are more important than the child or this and that. I don't think that there's any in those instances, I don't think that there's any, this is more important than that in that time, right? Everything's important. And that's why it's so hard to be a mom.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Now that everything is important.
Now there's times that, yes, this is the most important thing right now. Mm-hmm. The laundry can wait, right? The phone needs to be put down, right? Like this right now is the most important thing. Guess what's going to be there tomorrow when I wake up? The dishes in the sink, right? Or whatever it is, right? Whatever that chore is, I could, and this is where I'm saying things are more important, is they could be in the bath longer, playing, right? The bedtime story can go a little bit longer. And you could get crazy and be like, I got to be there until they fall asleep. And I'm not saying that either. Our kids knew like there's bedtimes at this time. And they got a story, they, pray and all that, but this is bedtime now, and you say goodnight while they're still awake and, they learn that. But you can't just sit there in those hopes of like, I think the biggest takeaway for a mom and a parent is that there's going to always be some kind of regret and second guessing, and you can't live your life like that. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like the whole concept of living your life, like if this was the last day you were alive, what would you do?
Right? Oh yeah, because if you live every day like that,
then, if this is the last 12 hours of your life, is it this the last 24
apparently
hours?
Brad would just get a truck. Yeah. If you guys listen to the episode from before like that.
No, but that you can't live life like that, right? Like when people ask that question and they're like, "Well, I just live like it's my last day," it's like, no, you don't, because. Because
that would be an impossible standard to live your life by.
Would you waste your time doing that? Would you waste your time? And it's
you would never do dishes. You would never do laundry. You would never go grocery shopping. You would never work like that. That's not a recipe for a fulfilling life.
No, absolutely not. And so that you can't think like this of second guessing yourself as a mom, right? Yeah. There's valid mistakes that happen. But they're also just mistakes.
Yeah, and there's the standards, I think, too, that we have to be really careful. I mean, I think, you talked about an information overload. I think it was probably 4 or 5 episodes ago, but that aspect of information overload. And I mean, man, you can find opposite information now on every single aspect of parenting.
Every single aspect of everything.
Yeah. And it's overwhelming because you're like, well, I guess I've screwed up my kid for life by co-sleeping. I guess I've screwed up my kid for life by not sleeping, by not co-sleeping. And I guess I've given, it's just this
Here's constant. I'll speak to that too. I think that every parent has their own way of parenting, right? What you should be leaning on is the Bible. Right. This is how I should be parenting. Like if you're a Christian, you're following Jesus and you are in his word and he's the priority in your life, that relationship above all else, like the love he gives you, the you're trying to be more like him, the parenting, it's going to come with that, right? Not saying that you're not, you won't be perfect, but everyone has their own style of parenting. You could read all the books like, oh, don't spank him, put him in the corner, put his nose to the wall, or no, don't do anything. Just talk it out and then let them do whatever they want, or ask them how they feel about this. Like it gets to the point of everyone's doing something wrong, right? That's to the point. That's what it gets to. So
yeah, so true.
You can, have, a bunch of moms in the room, and one mom says something to their kid, and one mom's like, oh my gosh, no, you just traumatized that kid for life. Like he's probably gonna be, a criminal now or whatever, right? And then,
I feel like this is how you think like play dates go. You're just like, well,
I don't know what you guys talk about.
Now that's definitely a gang member in the future.
I don't know what you guys talk about, what happens, but it's this like, our kids and you learning how to parent them, right? You were the one. So me as a dad, and there was, of course, when they were little, I was when the older two were little, I was around a lot more. And then when I moved into the career path that I was in, I had to travel a lot, so I was in and out of the house a lot. So there was a lot of things that you learned that I didn't know, and one of them was the way to discipline our kids, and it wasn't this blanket discipline. And I don't know if there was other parents when I was little that they disciplined their, siblings different, or, their different kids different or anything like that. I don't know if that's always been a thing. I just know in our marriage, there was, our middle child would weigh the options of what we said not to do. And you're
even
the one,
as a 2-year-old.
And you're the one that told me this, right? I didn't get to see this till you told me this, because I was like, well, just whoop him, right? Just gonna whoop that kid. Like, why are you doing that? Nope. And then smack him, right? And learn your lesson and don't do that again. But and this is his personality, and God's using his personality for good now, right?
Yeah.
But his personality is like, he's looking at that. He's like, I want to do that. They told me not to do that. I'm like, okay, but if I do it, I'm just going to get spanked and it'll be over. It'll hurt, but it's going to be over. Quick. No biggie. I want to do it. See what happens, right? It wasn't until you found out that with that child, making him put his nose to the wall was the worst thing you could ever do to him, ever. I mean, it was, you would have thought the world was falling down around him when you told him, like, no, you're putting your nose to the wall till I tell you you're done. And we have pictures of him. It was cute. He'd have his nose to the wall with his little hands up by his face and just like sniffling, crying, because he was missing out. So he couldn't do the things, and that was his punishment, right? Our youngest, I think when he was probably really little, like maybe a couple little pats here and there, on the butt, but he wasn't someone that needed.
He's watching everybody else. I'll learn from you.
And doing that. My face isn't going on that wall, and he's also the youngest, right? But no, they were all disciplined different ways, and they wouldn't have been like that if you weren't present the way you were present in their lives. We would have just done the blanket discipline, right? Or you would have been like, well, just wait till your dad gets home, thing, which sucks, by the way. I think, right? I think that, again, there's another family, you guys do that, kudos, like, that's your thing.
There was a couple of times I definitely was like, you're going to have a conversation with your dad when you get home.
Yeah.
And that was their worst, like, are you for real? Like, like I have to, like that just created like a whole level of angst in their heart, if anyone does, if you're listening to this, there's a series on parenting by Andy Stanley, and this is neither here nor there on
what do
Andy
we believe
Stanley.
He does this, it does
but
that
series on parenting was very good. And it was very challenging in a lot of ways on just, your perspective on what is discipline and the high value of honoring your mom. And I think that is, and you have always done that really well too, of teaching the kids. I know there's been many times like, you will not speak to your mom like that. Right. And stepping in, and we've done that for each other in that aspect of saying like, I know there have been some times when I've even heard the kids talk to you. I'm like, are you talking to your dad like that? It's just like, I don't think so. Yeah. And because it's like, the kids know, right? It's like God and us and then them. But yeah, I mean, I think the discipline side of things is always something that a family has to navigate and a mom has to navigate, and how to do it in a way that you can shape your child and not break their spirit.
Yeah.
And that's
what I'm getting. Like, that's why you could second guess yourself all you want. You can do those things. And again, there might be valid reasons why, but overall, being a mom, I mean, you're there all the time. Like, God has built you different to be in that place, right? Like, that is your role. Like, I have different emotions, and like I said, like, I'm on the verge of crying all the time now because my kids are grown, and I'm like, man, I wish they were a little kid again. But I have different emotions in the sense of even our kids moving out, right? I miss them, and there's, of course I miss them. But there's times where I'm sit there and I think about it, and I really miss them more, or when we left Argentina and left our daughter back, like, yeah, I got emotional, but you were a lot more emotional, right? It's a different connection, mom and child, than it is a father and a child. Not necessarily a stronger connection, but it's the way God has designed men and women.
Yeah.
Right. We have our roles. We have what we do, in this biblical aspect of how he's designed us. We react differently. Like, my relationship with my kids is strong, but it's a different relationship than what you have. And what you have with them is very strong. You've connected with them on levels that I may have connected with them, but in the way that I connect with them, right? And the way they connect with me versus I just think of like all the things that you've done where, walking upstairs when they're little and you're reading a story to all three of them, and you're literally every sentence is a different voice, and it's just,
dang it, Brad.
like, I could have done that probably to some level, but it wouldn't have been the same thing. There's a lot of things that the father can't substitute that the mother can give, right? Even to the point of, I remember when our oldest was born, right? She was a preemie. It was, we didn't think we were gonna have a baby in the morning. By that night, we have a baby. And I remember her, crying, and you had a C-section, so you can't even hold her, right? Like, your arms are strapped down, everything's strapped down, and they swallowed her up and they put her close to you, and then she just stopped. There's that connection that I don't think a father ever gets, right? They'd get a connection, but it's not the same connection. Way, right? Like, I know, there's all these studies, and of course, like, your kids can recognize both your voices, right? Yeah. They've heard it while they've been like growing, and so that is neat. I know, all my kids reacted to my voice when they were little babies. I thought it was just incredible because they don't know me, they've never seen me, but it's just different with the mom.
Yeah,
and then, you know, as a mom, you put so much pressure on yourself to not make a mistake, to, you know, do the right thing all the time, to, you know, I feel like there's almost so much pressure that moms put on themselves that it almost becomes overwhelming. And then that's where you get into, and I'm not a psychologist and I'm treading lightly, right? But I think that, you know, or would you agree with me that that is part of this, you know, depression side of having kids? And, you know, I don't know, postpartum depression, like, I'm not sure if that's just,
that's a lot of hormonal aspects.
Things, you know, but just when you have these kids and you see moms get depressed or start to give up, and it's not that, I mean, some kids are a handful, they really are. And it's not, and that's a real thing.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
It's not always, you know, you see the baby crying on the plane and throwing a fit and you immediately look at the parents like, are you kidding me? Like, no, that's, you know, flying. I hate flying. I'm a grown adult. I just know how to control my emotions. Yeah, I just know how to control my emotions. That little baby doesn't, you know, and its ears hurt and it's, you know, different pressures and it's hungry and it can't run around and all those things where everyone always looks at the parent first, right? Because, and it's natural. I do this all the time. You know, I see a kid acting up, look at the parent. So some kids are a handful, but I think where it gets to be an issue is when the mom is trying to do the right thing so much, putting so much pressure on herself, especially a new mom. And all of a sudden you get into this role of, it's not that you don't care, but it is this, I would say almost like a depression-like state.
I think, you know, when you're saying that and to encourage, you know, somebody who might be in this season, number one, like you mentioned, you know, that aspect of, you know, being a mother and it being different. And I just want to encourage somebody that is the reality, is that you're equipped for this. And I think that that's the thing that we have to recognize, that God placed these kids at this time with you, and recognizing that he's equipped you. And by equipping you, that doesn't mean you always feel like you're equipped, but that's part of it, is you learn to lean into his strength. But I think what probably, and I know I struggled in myself, is there are seasons that feel like wasted seasons as a mom.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is, it's just like, I'm in survival here. This isn't about like whether or not I was able to have the, you know, Instagram worthy shot of, you know, reading to my children, and
or was baby Einstein playing in the background.
Like this is about, I am losing my mind, and I'm just trying to get everybody fed, clean, to bed, like the basic survival skills. And in those seasons, it can just feel like such monotony, right? It's like, great, I did the dishes today. Guess what's going to be there tomorrow? Yeah. The dishes. Great. I fed my kid today and it was a battle. And guess what I'm going to do tomorrow? The same. Yeah. Right. I think that those can be the times where they just feel like wasted seasons. And I think what you need to know is that you are planting seeds in those seasons.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. And that's, I think, what I was trying to get at with what I was saying earlier with regrets. And I feel I could have spent more time doing this, where there is this side of it where, you know, one kid's sick, this kid's doing this kid has to go here, that, you know, it's just this constant.
That kid's jumping off there. Like, why?
Yeah. It's like, I turn my back and this kid's doing that because I have to do this.
Why are you trying to kill yourself? Like, that is not what you should do.
We have some close friends, and I love their little boys. And one is just, you turn your head and he's just climbing on something, and he is the funniest thing. But I will say this, like, to us, it is I love watching it, and I'm just like, look at this guy, you know? But I know, I can only imagine what it's like, you know, it's not that funny.
Yeah.
Right.
But we do know. I mean, we had 2 boys that were also
exactly. It's not that funny to the parents. It's like, oh gosh, he's doing that again. You know, it's, and to older parents that, you know, I think when you're around younger parents, like I've had where, you know, the mom's like, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, it's fine.
Yeah.
Like, don't know this. I'm not judging you at all. Like at all, you know, this is, they're being little kids, right?
This is why people make good grandparents.
No, it is. And 100%. And then, that's a whole nother aspect, but just that season of just surviving, right? The husband can be gone for a time of, you know, period with work, or
you're balancing work and kids.
Yeah, you're balancing work and kids, or military family, right? Like husband's gone for a minute, you know, and you're having to like keep this household together. And that's where that day-to-day monotony, I think, comes into play. I know there was times, you know, there was a lot of times there was a season, if you want to call it that, where I remember I'd get home from a trip, and we've talked about this before. I think it's come up before, but I would feel guilty that I would leave for work.
Yeah. And
I knew I was coming back to, you know, you were tired, stressed out, you know, and I mean, we're not perfect. That's why we do this podcast, right? But I remember there was times where like you would kind of throw that in my face, like that to you, me leaving was my vacation for me, right? Yeah. And where in fact it wasn't. You know, I was working. Now, was I alone? You know, like all those. But that's a whole nother. Like I can go deep into that too, but it was, you know, coming home to that and that side of motherhood, that aspect of you're keeping the home together, right? Whether you work outside the home or not, like you're keeping that home together. Yeah. And that is a huge thing. I mean, even to this day, I'm like, you have this list in your head. This is the way your brain works, and you know all these ins and outs. And I'm like, if something breaks, I'll fix it. But I'm not looking, I mean, just me in general as who I am. I'm not like looking to fix things, you know, around the house, or this needs to be done or that needs to be done. I'm like, is it clean? Everything's clean. Everything's picked up. Like we're good. Right. And then I'll just deal with the problem when it comes up, where you've been in here, right? You have all these things in your head, and the kids need to be doing this, and I'm homeschooling. Like that's another aspect of what you did. You know, you're homeschooling the kids and you know, teaching them all these things, but at the same time, you're holding, you know, making sure the lawn is, you know, you're not mowed because I mow, but like you get the sprinklers going and
I gotta go trim those trees.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what to tell you.
But it's so earlier you asked me like what it is, what was it, like my definition of what a mom is, or
like what, you know, what you see really matters. Or
I think that it's everything you do as a mom is love, right? And so that's what matters. It really does, because everything you do as a mom is love. From, you know, if you didn't love your kids, would you make them breakfast? Would you pour that cereal? You know, like, you know what I mean?
You always love them. You don't always like them, but you do always love them.
Yeah, right? Yeah, exactly. There was times, I know.
That's the truth right there. I love you. I do not like you right now.
Go to your room. No, but I think that's it. It's the love a mom has, you know, and it's, I mean, I don't even know how to describe it more than that. I mean, it's everything that a mom does to bring this baby up, right? You know, I learned early on that I could wake up with you. I would be awake because you were awake, but there was really nothing I was going to do. Like one of the kids wanted you, right?
Yeah.
Or, you were the only one that was able to feed them. I couldn't do it. There was aspects of being a mom that I can't do, right? And I wasn't even meant to comfort them the same way. Mm-hmm. I wasn't meant to treat them the same way as you treat them. Like I wasn't meant to do those things where you're coming from a more nurturing, loving, but I mean that in the sense of like what you would think of immediately, right? Like I love all my kids. Yeah. That's not the case, but you came from a very nurturing side of it, right?
Like my boys still to this day will come and say goodnight to me and put their head on my lap and I'm talking to them and say goodnight. They're not going to do that with you. No. They're going to hug you.
Yeah,
they're going to do all that.
All
that stuff. It's different.
Yeah, they're not going to do it. And when they were little, they would run up and lay on me and do all that. But at a certain point, they're that's not dad, right? Yeah. That's not. But with you, that's how all three of them were. Like that's how they wanted to be. They wanted that closeness. I mean, literally 18-year-old laying down.
Okay, Mom, I'm going to bed.
Going to bed. I'm going to lay down next to you.
Say a prayer for me.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to lay down next to you.
And I treasure those moments.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I wanted to emphasize in like what you feel might be like wasted seasons or activities, or maybe just the continual aspect of repeated days, right? The continuity of just like every day I'm doing this same thing. That there is purpose in that there's purpose, and the seeds that you're planting, those things come to fruition. And, it's been such a cool thing to see our kids, for those of you who have teenagers, just to know that can also be such a cool season that you're navigating through that. I'm not saying it is easy, but
no, it's a different,
it's cool.
All the different times you have with your kids they're amazing. I was just going to get into this too before, we start wrapping up or whatever. But I think what's ruined mothers is media, right? It's the movies, it's whatever TV shows, whatever it is, because whatever kind of media it is, because you see on there, just like it just came up to my head. It just came to my head because of what you were saying as far as, times, right? Like there's these little moments, there's these things. And the way movies work is if there's this impactful moment, it's this, I'm going to drop this amazing quote on you and you're going to, this amazing knowledge bomb is coming right now, and the movie sets it up and the kid takes it really well, then that's something, he grows old. My mom always said, my mom told me this. But in reality, the most impactful things that your kids take away are those moments that you think are mundane, those things that you're instilling in them where, I grew up, or not when I grew up, when I went to college, there was a guy, one of my roommates at one point, amazing dude. And I'm talking like Texan, right? Like he made me question if I was a Texan. Like he made me question if I was a Texan, right? Like Texan. And he had those things where he's like, my mom always said, right? And it wasn't my mom told me once, it was my mom always said. Yeah. And so it's this consistency of like, this is the way my mom is, this is what my mom's instilled on me, versus I'm in this moment, right? And I'm like forcing, a quote that I hope he takes with him for the rest of his life. Yeah. That's not
your consistency matters.
Absolutely.
That's what it does. That's why I'm saying those wasted seasons that you think
they're not wasted.
Like they're not wasted. You're planting Absolutely something not. And the consistency of that is creating something you can't see yet.
There's even if you had to focus on your career more at one point than you did your home life, whatever it is as being a mom, I would argue there's no wasted season. Yeah. Right. It's what you're doing in those, right? Like, this season, even as a dad, right? There was times where, now I feel like I'm getting more time with my kids, right? Or with my kid, because the other two are gone. But now I'm getting more time, right? And he's going to experience other things. And we just sat there today talking about something, and I was like, I wish I would have gotten to do this more.
Yeah.
Right, with the other two. But at that time, I couldn't do that more.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it. Now I'm going to take advantage. Yeah. And yes, I have the opportunity to do things more, so I'm going to do things more. And it's the same way being a mom. You're juggling all these things. There's going to be times where it's not a wasted season. Don't throw that away. Yeah. Don't say that mundane routine day in and day out with your kids was a waste.
Yeah.
Because it's not. There's so many. There's probably a lot of little laughs in there.
Yeah, that's right? I was literally just going to say, like, man, find the joy.
That's
what helps you survive those mundane seasons is like, man, the funny thing that your kids said, the laugh of your baby, the reality that they do want to just come up, and no matter what your day was like, they want to cuddle with you at the end of the night.
we have some close friends, and they have a 1-year-old, and I mean, she feels like a grandbaby to us, right? Well, I say it like a niece.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go grandbaby yet, saying niece. But, they'll send us videos of her acting up, right? And, I mean, you could attest this. I, seriously laugh.
Yeah.
And you have to discipline your kids. Like, there's no doubt about that, right?
It's loving to discipline your kids.
Absolutely. But I laugh at that because in those moments of her, she shouldn't be acting like that. I'm not condoning it. But in those moments, I'm finding these funny things that I know as parents, they're not.
Which, right? By the way, if your child is doing that, don't laugh at them. Then you created a game.
Oh yeah, then it becomes a game, right? Yeah, for sure. But and I'm not faulting parents that don't see it in that moment because you have a kid that's throwing a fit. Like, you have to discipline them. But what I'm getting at is that there is something funny in that moment. Yeah. Right. There are times, there are these.
Look for the joy.
Look for the joy.
Look for it.
And real quick, the discipline thing, it's unloving if you don't discipline your kids.
Yeah.
God is a God of love. Jesus loves us. Like, this is the theme of the Bible, right? And he disciplines us.
Yeah. He disciplines those he loves.
If it's kind of, I'll kind of equate it to this or make this analogy, right? They always say where my career field, right? When I first got in, I remember constantly just, nickname here, I did this and they make fun of me here, always messing with me. Right. And it never bothered me because I kind of, I played football all my life, kind of grew up in that world, but it hit me one time because a very senior guy, part of that crew that's always messing with people and talking about people, having fun. He was like, if we're not doing that around you, we probably don't like you.
Right.
And I heard him say that to someone else, and it hit me. And not because I was trying to be liked. I mean, of course you're wanting to fit in, not fit in a bad way. You want to fit in. Well, I wasn't trying to be liked, but at the same time, it's like, oh, okay. It's not that they don't like me. It's the same thing with discipline as far as the way you raise your kids. If that kid that's like, I can do whatever I want. I'm not saying his parents don't love him, but there's a piece that they don't, you know what? It's a retarded love. Well, I'm not saying that in a bad way. I'm saying it's
you realize that's a word you're not supposed to use anymore, right, Brad?
Well, listen, I'm Gen X, so I'm sorry. No, it's a love that's skewed, right?
Yeah.
It's not a version of love.
It's not a healthy perspective of what love is.
Right? Because you need some kind of discipline. I'm not saying throw the kid around.
No, it shouldn't be done out of anger.
No, but if you're not doing that, you need to do that. You want, and it's that Andy Stanley series, one thing there was a lot I took out of it, but one thing I thought was neat that he said was, I want to hang out with this dude when he's an adult.
Yeah, exactly.
You want to
raise your kids for that.
I want to hang out with him, right?
Exactly.
I don't want to be like, oh, great. Like he's coming over. Like, no, I want to hang out with this dude. Right. I want to hang out with my daughter. Like I want that as their adults.
Which is why like the seeds that you're planting, it's character building. Mm-hmm. That's what you need to be focused on, is like, I'm trying to help build your character, shape your character. Yeah. And that helps you facilitate discipline in a healthy way, helps you facilitate how you love them, the seeds that you're planting. Because it's like, man, I do want to one day want you to come back to my house.
I would say not so much a challenge, but to give the moms to think about, you know, like parting words, I guess, would be be quick to apologize. Have grace for yourself in the sense of stop second guessing yourself. Mm. And if you're sitting there like, no, I should be second guessing myself. Well, then start doing better now.
Yeah.
Because again, that round's downrange. Like you can't bring that back, but you can change now, right? You can be more intentional now.
Yeah.
But I think those would be the things that I would tell a mom, you know, new mom, veteran mom,
mom of the teenager, mom of the grown adult,
mom of the grown adult, like all sort, whatever aspect of motherhood you're in, that just that, like, I don't, being a mom is, you know, it's a unique, powerful position.
Yeah.
It really is. And it takes a lot of responsibility, a lot of capacity, a lot of love, a lot of Jesus.
Amen.
It takes a lot.
Amen. All right. Happy Mother's Day. A few days late.
Yeah. Happy Mother's Day.
We'll see you next week.